Hello, my friends. Welcome to Pause to Three's podcast, where we explore the power in the pause. My name is Jen. I am your host, and this is episode 1 of a minimum 6-week series where I take you along my journey of my ketamine treatment for depression. If you're listening because you're considering it, starting it, or simply curious, this is for you, and I am glad you are here. Each day in my podcasts, whatever the podcast is about, we take time to pause, to reflect, and to gently check in with where we are. There is no pressure here to be perfect. There is no expectation to have it all figured out. There is no judgment. There is just space and pause. So for me, this decision to go down the ketamine therapy route, this isn't because it's a quick fix. This is part of a long process of healing, one that has included looking at my past, facing things I didn't want to feel, I was scared to feel, I was unaware that were even inside me and were waiting to be felt, and basically just working with parts of myself I used to ignore. You don't need to have done all of that to be here. Just bring yourself, bring your curiosity, and bring an open mindset. As mentioned earlier, this is the first day of a minimum 6-week series. I will be receiving ketamine therapy once a week for the next 6 weeks. Some weeks might miss because I have previous engagements, but generally speaking, it is a 6 weeks journey, and then there is maintenance sessions done normally once a month, depending on what each person needs. And like I like to mention in many of my other podcasts, I am not a doctor. I am not a professional. I am not giving advice. I am just a person who's showing up and sharing my journey. And maybe that's enough right now for both of us. So again, if you're here, I welcome you and I thank you for spending your precious time with me. So let's talk first of all a little bit about what ketamine is and what ketamine therapy is without the science overload. Okay, again, this is just based on some research I've done. And again, I'm planting seeds. If this curiosity that you have and you're here is calling you to dig deeper into this, please do so. Okay, so ketamine was first used as an anesthetic, but researchers began noticing something unexpected. People with severe depression were suddenly feeling better after getting small doses. And not just better eventually, but better within hours or days. So unlike traditional antidepressants that can take weeks to start to see effects, ketamine works differently. It doesn't try to increase your quote-unquote feel-good chemicals in the same way as antidepressants or traditional antidepressants. Instead, what ketamine does is it helps the brain to form new connections. So imagine you've been walking the same painful path in your mind every day. So it's created a rut, just like in the grass or in the carpet. When you pace back and forth and when you're always walking on the same path, there's a rut, and it's where you go to because it's comfortable, it's there, and it's easy. So what ketamine does is it creates space for a new path, a path that isn't weighed down by the same heaviness that's in those other ruts. And if you'd like to take this a little bit further, I'm going to share something that Yale researcher, so a doctor from Yale University, Dr. Gerard Sanacora, he said that ketamine opens a window where the brain is more flexible, kind of like fresh snow that you can leave new footprints in. I love that visual. When you picture fresh snow or fresh sand and there's been no footprints and you start to walk and you're creating a new path, that's just beautiful. Beautiful. And if you're a visualization person, or you like the visuals, I hope that resonates with you as much as it did with me. So, but this also doesn't mean that everything changes overnight, but it might give you a chance. It may help you find a pause. And sometimes, my friend, a pause is all we need to begin again. That pause to help us find our power within. I'm sure you've heard that before if you're not new to me. So yesterday was the first treatment, and it's hard to put it into words. But I will try my best, and I'll try to stay focused, and also keep in mind that everybody that goes through this treatment is going to experience it in different ways. Okay, so this is just me sharing my journey, and somebody else may have a completely different experience. But for me, there were moments where I felt like I was floating, but feeling completely safe, completely comforted. And even if I may be so woo-woo to say, I felt completely surrounded by love, comfort, strength, protection, encouragement from something in the universe that was there in this floating black space. And I don't say black as in darkness, as in creepy or eerie. It was black, like full of stars and this heavenly night sky that was just holding me safe. Some memories popped up that I hadn't really expected. Not so much specific memories, but feelings and sensations that normally, without the ketamine, they would cause me to freeze up, to panic, to go into those ruts like I normally would, and it would usually create a downward spiral. This didn't happen. Okay, I was able to have these memories, these visions, these thoughts, these sensations come to me and go through me, all while being safe, feeling safe, and aware that, hey, as much as this is an ick feeling, it's going to pass. And it passed in like the blink of an eye. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, I feared that feeling for so long, and that was it. And then there were other memories, other sensations that just kind of faded in and out, kind of like dreams. I kind of also looked at it kind of like a slow, like a pinball machine, but the ball itself was moving through molasses. So it was slow and it was gentle. It was like an ebb and flow. So I didn't necessarily feel quote unquote high or out of control. I was just in the moment. I had a weighted blanket on me. I was realizing now, I should have mentioned this part earlier. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit before I go into more of what I was feeling and just paint the setting for you. So I was in a room with a nurse and a doctor that came in and got me all settled, told me what was going to happen. They were going to administer the ketamine over about 40 minutes through intravenous. So I had a needle in my arm. I had a call button there. They had a camera that was hooked up to the video that they could watch me. They could see me. So if anything was happening, if I did start to freak out or panic, they were right there. I was in a zero gravity recliner chair with an eye mask and a ketamine playlist that was just like a meditative type music. And, and I just simply had that space to be safe, to relax, and to leave everything else that was going on in the day, leave it at the door. So that's the setting of where I was for this treatment. So I go back to, I wasn't feeling high. I wasn't feeling out of control. I was just almost like an out of body experience, but not to the degree that I was able to like look down and see myself sitting there. It wasn't that. Basically, I was just sitting, but I wasn't in the usual mental loop either, that cycle, that downward spiral. And that was the big thing for me. It was just like my thoughts had more room. It was this vast, infinite amount of space to have my thoughts come and go and watch them and feel them and release them and process things. And there was no judgment, no pressure to figure anything out, just space. So I could sit back and no judgment when these feelings of fear. I didn't have any moments of full out cry. I did have some tears come through. I had a lot of laughter as things were coming and going. There was just warm, comforting space. And then when the session had finished, and I was starting to kind of come back aware of my surroundings around me, the chair, I'd start to wiggle my feet and kind of like just coming out of a meditation. And I just sat in silence. I just sat and paused in the peace. Not necessarily because I had to, but because I wanted to. And that was rare for me to actually willingly allow myself to just practice the pause. And it was beautiful. So the reason this podcast, and for those of you that have been with me before, you understand that I call this podcast Pause 2-3 because that's what this journey is all about for me, finding power in the pause. And for a lot of us, finding that pause is hard. And it is possible to do without the ketamine therapy. Trust me, you can do it. And this therapy isn't available for everybody. I get that. But I think by sharing my journey with it and by spreading these seeds and by you being here and opening up your curiosities, this is going to become more mainstream down the road. And that's what this is all about. So in this world that pushes us to keep going, to keep producing, to keep performing, to keep on living for everybody else and putting ourselves on the back burner, this pause can feel uncomfortable. But the pause is where the truth lives. It's where we can catch our breath, and it's where the healing is allowed to start. Because, my friends, healing isn't something we choose. Healing isn't something we chase. It's something we choose to allow. So for me yesterday, and I'm very grateful for this, that ketamine helped me have that pause. It quieted the noise. And in that quiet, in that pause, I could feel something else. Something softer. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was just less pain. It's really hard to put down in words what it was, but either way, I'm very grateful. So that pretty much wraps up my day one. I was extremely exhausted afterwards, which is very, very normal. And for any of you that are going through any type of healing and growing and either letting go or letting in, it can be exhausting. And I encourage you all to be so gentle with yourself as you go through this journey of healing and rediscovering you. Allow yourself time to rest. Allow yourself time to pause. And even if it's just 5 seconds, even if it's just 10 seconds, please start practicing the pause. Okay. And so what's coming next now? I am recording this video the day after. The day after has still been a very slow, gentle day. I'm still kind of reflecting back on how things went yesterday. And I'm taking time to remember the feeling I had in the pause. Because, friends, we can create that pause in our everyday life without the ketamine. We can. We can allow ourselves time to practice the pause. Okay? It might take some time. It might take some practice. It might take some refocusing. It might take some reminding. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to remind. I'm here to encourage. And I'm here to remind you that the power is in the pause. So, if you're listening and wondering if this could help you, there's no one-size-fits-all answer, but there's room for you here. And not because you're broken or need fixing, but because you deserve space to feel something different. You deserve space to feel without judgment. You deserve space to hear that it's okay to feel your emotions without judgment. So the day after now, is called the integration part. And this is where the real work begins. It's about taking the time to pause, It's about taking the time to be gentle, and it's about taking the time to reflect and remind ourselves that we experience many emotions on this journey, but we are not our emotions. Okay, so stay tuned for next week as I do a follow-up from week 2 of this therapy. And there may be some intermittent podcasts in between too if some things pop up along the way, but guaranteed I will be back next week. So until then, thank you again for sharing your time with me. Thank you for taking this moment to pause. There's no need to do anything else. Just pause and breathe and know you are amazing and you are loved. And I will meet you here again next week for day 2, week 2 of my ketamine therapy treatment for depression. This is Jen signing off for now, thanking you again for being here and reminding you the power is in your pause. You are loved. I see you, I hear you, and I am sending you love, strength, and comfort on this journey. Bye for now.